Actually, when we started our work about 7 years ago, we were perceived by many as aliens because people were asking exactly the same question: why should civil society organizations be working on tax while there are other more urgent issues, more pressing issues like access to health, water, education, addressing issues that are related to hunger? So people wondering, have you run out of topics, or is there more urgent issues to do? The answer to that is very simple. One wise man once said that tax is the price we pay to live in a civilized society. What that basically means that in the long term, African governments can only break away from the dependence of aid and manage to stand on their own feet if they're able to raise enough revenue to finance their own development. So in future, we can only be a true independent, both politically and economically independent, if we're able to finance our own development from our own resources. That's the importance, and therefore, in my own opinion, tax starts at the heart of economic development and poverty eradication. That is the reason I'm so passionate about the work that I do. There is a study that was conducted by a US-based research institute called Global Financial Integrity, and what they found out was that between 1970 and 2008, Africa lost a total of $854 billion. Statistics indicate that up to over $50 billion flow out of Africa as a result of what is called illicit financial flows. To put those figures into context, for every dollar that flows into Africa in form of aid or external resources, FDI, there is $10 flowing out, making Africa a net creditor to the world. And this thing, I think for me, this is the biggest scandal in the 21st century. The effective tax rate, which means the actual tax that many companies end up paying, ranges below 15%, 12% to 15%. And the reason for this is that the tax policy is characterized by a high level of tax incentives. Governments offering a huge level of tax incentives, 10-year tax holidays for companies that want to set base in many African countries. And as a result of this, eroding the tax base. A study that my organization did found out that, for instance, in the case of Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, the three East African countries lose up to $2.8 billion annually as a result of tax incentives. If you were to put these figures into context, you'll find that in the case of Uganda, for instance, Uganda loses up to $200 million annually, which is almost double the government budget on health. Studies that have been conducted by, among others, even the international financial institutions such as the World Bank, found out that actually tax incentives are not they are not one of the most important factors that companies consider when they want to invest. If they want to invest in Kenya or in Uganda or in any other country for that matter, they look at availability of the resources, they look at the workforce, if you have a well-trained human resource, they look at infrastructure, if they can be able to transport their goods from point A to point B, they look at reliability of power, do we have constant power outages, they look at governance systems, rule of law, that you can be able to go to court and get your right. So these are factors that are more important in terms of when companies consider where to invest or if to invest in a particular jurisdiction. But still, despite of this, there is still existing misnomer that you need to offer these tax incentives. And as a result of this, what we have seen is companies moving into countries, exploiting these tax incentives for a period, 5 years, and after the end of that particular period, they either pack and go, or they register under a different name. Nova Hotel in Tanzania that has changed its name 3 times in the last 15 years. And that has to do, of course, with the kind of incentives that the Tanzanian government offers the tourism sector to attract investment. So they change after every 5 years, therefore exploiting the resources. So that's one of I would say, the second large problem that characterizes the African tax systems. The bigger one, the elephant in the room, is actually what you call illicit financial flows. We had cases of companies that have been investigated where they operate in countries for a period of 5, 10 years without reporting profits, reporting losses continuously, while in other jurisdictions, particularly in tax havens, they are reporting huge profits. And as a result of this, actually, the estimates show that the bigger chunk, up to 60% of the revenue losses that Africa suffers, is a result of this commercial tax evasion and tax avoidance by multinational companies who are exploiting the loopholes in the global tax system, exploiting the lack of transparency that particularly the tax havens offer to shift profits from Africa to these tax havens. The governance problem is a big problem in Africa. Corruption is a big problem, but let me give you 2 examples. Until very years back, when Kenya particularly was highly financed by aid, when this money would be misappropriated by governments or government officials, the headline would say, well, this amount of money from the World Bank has been stolen, or this amount of money from DFID has been stolen. And the citizens didn't see the connection. They didn't know that this money that has been borrowed that we'll have to pay 5, 10 years down the road. But today, because particularly of the success that I've mentioned, whenever there is any scandal, what the papers say is this amount of taxpayers' money has been misappropriated, and you see immediate reaction from the citizen because they know that's money that was taken out of my pocket. That's the money that I would have used to pay for my children's fee or build my house or things like that. So the citizens' anger is much realized through, you will see that through calls to the radio stations or letters to the editor. That's one direct impact of this shift. The second thing, I think the argument that is usually left out when we discuss corruption in Africa, I think that there is a tendency, one, of focusing on what I can call the pickpockets while we are letting the big robbers get away. We need to focus not only on the demand side of corruption, but also on the supply side of corruption. The money that is stolen in Africa is not kept in Africa. It is kept in Swiss banks, in Jersey, in Cayman Island. That's where the resources that are stolen in Africa are kept. So it is important to question our understanding and the geography of corruption and try to interrogate the infrastructure that make it possible for money that is stolen from Africa being looted and hidden in offshore tax havens across Europe. The Publish What You Pay, or the Extractive Sector Transparency Initiative, aims at making companies report the profits that they have, the taxes that they are paid to or the royalties and taxes that they are paid to the government. But what we are asking from the tax justice perspective is not just reporting what they have paid, but what they should have paid also, which is equally important. So, if a company says we didn't make any profit, so we didn't pay any tax, according to EITI, you have achieved, you are transparent enough. But we need to go deeper. We need to go deeper and interrogate, are the profits that these companies are reporting to have made to the government, are they the correct profits? It's a very central figure. So transparency should not be limited to just saying how much you paid, but going deeper and trying to interrogate, are those figures that you are reporting to have paid the correct figures, or are there suspicions of profit shifting and sort of trying to shift profits from one issue to the other? I think that's more essential. I think that there's no that one bullet solution. We have to work at different levels. We have to work at local level with communities and citizens, at the national level to address the problems I was talking about, progressive taxation, VAT and all that. We have to work at regional level to ensure that countries at the regional level are collaborating and working together and harmonizing their taxes to avoid the problems that are related to race to the bottom through tax competition at regional level. And at global level, we have to work and ensure that we have increased transparency in how multinational companies report their profits, to ensure that the profits are reported there where the economic activity is taking place and they are taxed there so that those countries are able to raise the revenue that they need to finance development in those regions. I envision a world, an Africa, where the partnership between Africa and the rest of the world is not a partnership that is informed through aid and those kind of relationship, but it's a true partnership where Africa is an equal partner, be it in research, be it in all different economic areas, a true partnership, and not a partnership that is perceived that this is we are the givers and they are the takers. I think that is what drives me. That what drives my work, to ensure that Africa is able to raise the resources they need to finance their own development and end their reliance on the perpetual reliance on external aid.